Hi, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the beginning of Mice and Men. I hope you got in those character descriptions of George and Lenny are two ranch hands that are not like every other ranch hand because they have each other. We're going to continue listening to chapter one, possibly part of chapter two, and then you're going to answer some more questions. Remember, if you have any comments or questions, please don't forget to email me or message me on Google Classroom. We're all in this together.
Lenny hesitated, backed away, looked wildly at the brush line as though he contemplated running for his freedom. George said coldly, "You gonna give me that mouse or do I have to sock you?" "Give you what, George?" "You know goddamn well what. I want that mouse." Lenny reluctantly reached into his pocket. His voice broke a little. "I don't know why I can't keep it. It ain't nobody's mouse. I didn't steal it. I found it lying right beside the road." George's hand remained outstretched imperiously, slowly, like a terrier who doesn't want to bring a ball to its master. Lenny approached, drew back, approached again. George snapped his fingers sharply, and at the sound, Lenny laid the mouse in his hand. "I wasn't doing nothing bad with it, George, just stroking it." George stood up and threw the mouse as far as he could into the darkening brush, and then he stepped to the pool and washed his hands. "You crazy fool. Don't you think I could see your feet was wet where you went across the river to get it?" He heard Lenny's whimpering cry and wheeled about. "Blubbering like a baby. Jesus Christ, a big guy like you." Lenny's lip quivered and tears started in his eyes. "Oh, Lenny." George put his hand on Lenny's shoulder. "I ain't taking it away just for meanness. That mouse ain't fresh, Lenny. Besides, you broke it petting it. You get another mouse that's fresh, I'll let you keep it a little while." Lenny sat down on the ground and hung his head dejectedly. "I don't know where there is no other mouse. I remember a lady used to give them to me, every one she got, but that lady ain't here." George scoffed. "Lady, huh? Don't even remember who that lady was. That's your own Aunt Clara, and she stopped giving them to you. You always killed them." Lenny looked sadly up at him. "They were so little," he said apologetically. "I'd pet them, and pretty soon they bit my fingers, and I pinched their heads a little, and then they was dead. Because they was so little. I wished we'd get the rabbits pretty soon, George. They ain't so little." "Hell with the rabbits. You ain't to be trusted with no live mice. Your Aunt Clara give you a rubber mouse, and you wouldn't have nothing to do with it." "It wasn't no good to pet," said Lenny. The flame of the sunset lifted from the mountaintops, and dusk came into the valley, and a half-darkness came in among the willows and the sycamores. A big carp rose to the surface of the pool, gulped air, and then sank mysteriously into the dark water again, leaving widening rings on the water. Overhead, the leaves whisked again, and little puffs of willow cotton blew down and landed on the pool's surface. "You gonna get that wood?" George demanded. "There's plenty right up against the back of that sycamore. Floodwater wood. Now you get it." Lenny went behind the tree and brought out a litter of dried leaves and twigs. He threw them in a heap on the old ash pile and went back for more and more. It was almost night now. A dove's wings whistled over the water. George walked to the fire pile and lighted the dry leaves. The flame cracked up among the twigs and fell to work. George undid his bindle and brought out 3 cans of beans. He stood them about the fire, close in against the blaze, but not quite touching the flame. "There's enough beans for 4 men," George said. Lenny watched him from over the fire. He said patiently, "I like 'em with ketchup." "But we ain't got any," George exploded. "Whatever we ain't got, that's what you want. God almighty. If I was alone, I could live so easy. Could go get a job and work and no trouble. No mess at all. When the end of the month come, I could take my $50 and go into town and get whatever I want. Or I could stay in a cat house all night. I could eat any place I want, hotel or any place, and order any damn thing I could think of. I could do that every damn month. Get a gallon of whiskey, or sit in a pool room and play cards or shoot pool. Lenny knelt and looked over the fire at the angry George, and Lenny's face was drawn with terror. What I got? George went on furiously. I got you. Can't keep a job, you lose me every job I get. Just keep me shoving all over the country all the time. And that ain't the worst. You get in trouble, you do bad things, and I got to get you out. His voice rose nearly to a shout. You crazy son of a bitch, you keep me in hot water all the time. He took on the elaborate manner of little girls when they are mimicking one another. Just wanted to feel that girl's dress. Just wanted to pet it like...
Okay, so we have George clearly getting very, very frustrated with Lenny because he's his caregiver. And Lenny, as you can see, is like a little kid who just likes to want to pet soft things. What did he do to the mouse is one question I have for you. And then I also want you to tell me, what are some things that George could do with his life if he wasn't with Lenny? Don't forget, these are men working on a ranch, traveling ranch to ranch. So some of the things that they like to do back then, I have it highlighted in his speech. You know, we have them drinking whiskey, playing pool, and visiting a cat house. So what do you think a cat house is? I'm going to turn the rest of the page, and we're going to listen to the rest of it.
Like it was a mouse. But how the hell did she know you just wanted to feel her dress? She jerks back and you hold on like it was a mouse. She yells and we got to hide in the irrigation ditch all day with guys looking for us. We got to sneak out in the dark and get out of the country. All the time, something like that. All the time. I wished I could put you in a cage with about 1 million mice and let you have fun. His anger left him suddenly. He looked across the fire at Lenny's anguished face, and then he looked ashamedly at the flames. It was quite dark now, but the fire lighted the trunks of the trees and the curving branches overhead. Lenny crawled slowly and cautiously around the fire until he was close to George. He sat back on his heels. George turned the bean can so that another side faced the fire. He pretended to be unaware of Lenny so close beside him. George? Very softly. No answer. George? What do you want? I was only fooling, George. I don't want no ketchup. I wouldn't eat no ketchup if it was right here beside me. If it was here, you could have some. But I wouldn't eat none, George. I'd leave it all for you. You could cover your beans with it, and I wouldn't touch none of it. George still stared morosely at the fire. When I think of the swell time I could have without you, I go nuts. Never get no peace. Lenny still knelt. He looked off into the darkness across the river. George, you want I should go away and leave you alone? Where the hell would you go? Well, I could go off in the hills there. Some place I'd find a cave. Yeah? How'd you eat? You ain't got sense enough to find nothing to eat. I'd find things, George. I don't need no nice food with ketchup. I'd lay out in the sun. Nobody'd hurt me. If I found a mouse, I could keep it. Nobody'd take it away from me. George looked quickly and searchingly at him. I've been mean, ain't I? If you don't want me, I can go off in the hills and find a cave. I can go away any time. No. Look. I was just fooling, Lenny, because I want you to stay with me. Trouble with mice is you always kill them. He paused. Tell you what I'll do, Lenny. First chance I get, I'll give you a pup. Maybe you wouldn't kill it. That'd be better than mice, and you could pet it harder. Lenny avoided the bait. He had sensed his advantage. If you don't want me, you only just got to say so, and I'll go off in those hills right there, right up in those hills, and live by myself, and I won't get no mice stole from me. George said, I want you to stay with me, Lenny. Jesus Christ, somebody'd shoot you for a coyote if you was by yourself. No, you stay with me. Your Aunt Clara wouldn't like you running off by yourself, even if she is dead. Lenny spoke craftily. Tell me.
So I hope you caught that. What happened to Aunt Clara? And does Lenny really understand what's happening when George gets upset with him? Just some questions to make you think a little bit about each of the characters and what they're going through.
You done before. Tell you what. About the rabbits, George snapped. You ain't gonna put nothing over on me. Lenny pleaded. Come on, George. Tell me, please, George, like you done before. You get a kick out of that, don't you? All right, I'll tell you, and then we'll eat our supper. George's voice became deeper. He repeated his words rhythmically, as though he had said them many times before. Guys like us that work on ranches are the loneliest guys in the world. They got no family. They don't belong no place. They come to a ranch and they work up a stake, and then they go into town and they blow their stake. First thing you know, they're pounding their tail on some other ranch. They ain't got nothing to look ahead to. Lenny was delighted. That's it. That's it. Now tell how it is with us. George went on. With us, it ain't like that. We got a future. We got somebody to talk to that gives a damn about us. We don't have to sit in no bar room blowing in our jack just because we got no place else to go. Them other guys gets in jail, they can rot for all anybody gives a damn. But not us. Then he broke in. But not us. And why? Because I got you to look after me, and you got me to look after you, and that's why. He laughed delightedly. Go on now, George. You got it by heart. You can do it yourself. No, you. I'll forget some of the things. Tell about how it's going to be. Okay. Someday, we're going to get the jack together, and we're going to have a little house and a couple of acres, and a cow and some pigs, and live off the fat of the land, Lenny shouted, and have rabbits. Go on, George. Tell about what we're going to have in the garden, and about the rabbits in the cages, and about the rain in the winter and the stove, and how thick the cream is on the milk, like you can hardly cut it. Tell about that, George. Why don't you do it yourself? You know all of it. No, you tell it. It ain't the same if I tell it. Go on, George. How I get to tend the rabbits. Well, said George, we'll have a big vegetable patch and a rabbit hutch and chickens. When it rains in the winter, we'll just say to hell with going to work, and we'll build up a fire in the stove, sit around it, and listen to the rain coming down on the roof. Nuts. He took out his pocket knife. I ain't got time for no more. He drove his knife through the top of one of the bean cans, sawed out the top, and passed the can to Lenny. Then he opened the second can. From his side pocket, he brought out 2 spoons and passed one of them to Lenny. They sat by the fire and filled their mouths with beans and chewed mightily. A few beans slipped out of the side of Lenny's mouth. George gestured with his spoon. What you gonna say tomorrow when the boss asks you questions? Lenny stopped chewing and swallowed. His face was concentrated. I ain't gonna say a word. Good boy, that's fine, Lenny. Maybe you're getting better. When we get a couple of acres, I can let you tend the rabbits, all right, especially if you remember as good as that. Lenny choked with pride. I can remember, he said. George motioned with the spoon again. Look, Lenny, I want you to look around here. You can remember this place, can't you? The ranch is about a quarter mile up that way. Just follow the river. Sure, said Lenny. I can remember this. Didn't I remember about not going to say a word? Of course you did. Well, look. Lenny, if you just happen to get in trouble like you always done before, I want you to come right here and hide in the brush. Hide in the brush, said Lenny slowly. Hide in the brush till I come for you. Can you remember that? Sure I can, George. Hide in the brush till you come. But you ain't gonna get in no trouble, because if you do, I won't let you tend the rabbits. He threw his empty bean can off into the brush. I won't get in no trouble, George. I ain't gonna say a word. Okay. Bring your bindle over here by the fire. It's gonna be nice sleeping here, looking up in the leaves. Don't build up no more fire. We'll let her die down. They made their beds on the sand, and as the blaze dropped from the fire, the sphere of light grew smaller. The curling branches disappeared, and only a faint glimmer showed where the tree trunks were. From the darkness, Lenny called, "George, you asleep?" "No. What do you want?" "Let's have different colored rabbits, George." "Sure we will," George said sleepily. "Red and blue and green rabbits, Lenny. Millions of them. Furry ones, George, like I seen in the fair in Sacramento." "Sure. Furry ones. 'Cause I can just as well go away, George, and live in a cave." "You can just as well go to hell," said George. "Shut up now." The red light dimmed on the coals. Up the hill from the river, a coyote yammered, and a dog answered from the other side of the stream. The sycamore leaves whispered in a little night breeze.
Okay, so we really get the relationship and a lot of background story about what happened with Lenny and Weed, why they had to, yes, the town is named Weed, and why they had to leave that place. We also get really into the relationship of the two men and their dream. What's their dream? Which character do you like? Do you think George is mean? We're going to cover a bunch of these questions. Go back and fill in the questions for chapter 1 if you had some other blanks that you didn't get to. And this is it for today, and then we'll start something new again. We'll start the rest of it tomorrow. Again, please, any questions, contact me, reach out to me, just a click away.